Hi, I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I'm able to play video games if I'm blind, if you take a look at the video here, or if the video is not there, click the link in the description down below to see exactly what I see when I'm playing video games. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Watch Dogs Legion. This is my final accessibility impressions of the game. If you missed the video back in the summer, in July, my friends Grant Stoner and Ben Bayless, we got to, all three of us, play the demo of Watch Dogs Legion, had like a really good amount of like couple hours playing the game, and we gave our really in-depth impressions of the accessibility settings that we got to see. So in this video, it's going to be a shorter one where essentially now I get to kind of compare what we saw in the demo to what is in the final version of the game on the console side. And then just, I'll talk about a little bit of some of the things that I got to see that I actually thought were really interesting in comparison to what we originally played. So let's just jump right into the video.
The city needs a resistance. And it starts with you. What do you say?
I say I'm here, so what the hell? Let's get to it.
Excellent. New user registered. Welcome to DedSec.
So first of all, I wanted to talk about when you first boot up the game. In the demo that we got to play, we didn't really get a chance to see the options available right away. We had to sort of get into the actual gameplay in order to be able to see the options. But in the final version, when you boot up the game for the first time, there actually is a little bit of like a text-to-speech narrator voice that tells you to push A, which is nice that starts it off. And then once you kind of log in, you are brought up to basically an options menu before you even start. And one of the first options that you can be able to do is turn on menu narration. And once you have that turned on, you can basically hear all of the text that's read in any of the menus from here on out.
Full captions. Displays subtitles for all spoken dialogue,
which is great, and that's something we didn't really get a chance to see or hear technically in the demo because the narration feature was still kind of a work in progress. But it was nice to be able to hear everything being narrated in the game, and I think it's actually pretty well done. There are a few things that I'm like some quality of life issues I would love to have been able to see, especially when you kind of get further in the game and you sort of pick up these little audio logs, which are really cool to be able to listen to. It's kind of like little mini podcasts. But unfortunately, once you start playing the audio, if the narrator hasn't finished reading off all of the text and the button prompts, it'll just keep playing it and it won't stop the audio recording.
Coming up
Data,
in today's
the
episode of
Bagley.
The Upload,
Matt and Vicky brainstorm the reason behind the success of Bagley. How does it outperform and outtweet every other AI on the market? Button A, play. Button Y, show transcript. Directional pad buttons, previous/next category. Button
coming
B,
up
back.
in today's episode of The Upload.
I don't know if that would have been something that they could be able to maybe update in a future patch, because I will say this, full disclosure, we did receive a review copy. We didn't receive the first day patch that you all will receive when you buy the game day one. So it may be fixed in that, but I don't know from as of this recording. But going back to the opening menu, there are definitely some things you can be able to turn on as well. There you can turn on subtitles, and you can adjust the brightness and the contrast and the gamma. Once you kind of start the game, you can basically have two options. You can either which difficulty setting you want, and then also the ability to be able to turn on or off permadeath. And this was something that I was interested in when I heard that there was going to be permadeath in the game, whether there was going to be an option to be able to turn it on or off. And I was glad to see that they kind of give you that option. They do warn you that essentially you can't change the permadeath option once you're in the game unless you start a brand new game, so keep that in mind. But you can also be able to change the difficulty within the game even after you've chosen that specific difficulty at the very beginning. Now, as far as the blind perspective, for myself, kind of being low vision, it was kind of nice to be able to see like the narrator really kind of fully fleshed out in the menus and even in the in-game menus as well. It definitely was able to help a lot. I think probably, and this is the case in pretty much a lot of games with a narrated menu. The map still needs quite a bit of work for the narration aspect. That's probably the one thing that I noticed that was difficult for blind players, in that once you hover over a point of interest, it doesn't read out the actual text that it pops up. So keep that in mind when you're playing it. And this is kind of the same for a lot of games where the map unfortunately is still having trouble with text-to-speech. So it's not just exclusive to Watch Dogs. Now, there's one thing I kind of want to bring up, and I'm not going to take credit for this because that'd be very egotistical to say, However, there is some correlation as to why I would possibly think that. So back in July, in the video that of the preview that we got, I mentioned that there was a lot of the HUD elements that were pretty small. Some of the icons and the hacker command wheel and just a few things in the HUD were a little bit tiny. Now, granted, I was playing it over in the internet. I was basically streaming it from a server onto my PC. So I understand that like the quality wasn't there. And so when I jumped into the game here at home, where I have my 4K set up, and it's the first time I got to play it, so I kind of had, like, it was imperceptible at first. I don't even know if imperceptible is a word. It was, I didn't notice it at first. I was like, oh, okay, they definitely they changed a few of the UI elements, and I was like, okay, all right. And it wasn't until I started to compare the footage from back in July to now, where I actually noticed there is a size increase in some of the HUD elements in the game. From some of the little pop-up things that you see to the hacker command wheel is increased in size, to some of the pop-up dialogue boxes and the menus have increased. And it was something I was like, I didn't even notice until I compared it. And I was like, oh. So again, I'm not gonna take credit for this but I also do know that some of the Ubisoft developers did watch our video and I mean, they possibly might have, but hey, if they did, and they increased it because of like my feedback, plus also the other blind players that got to play it and had their feedback, then that's really cool. That means that Ubisoft, I just hit the mic. That means that Ubisoft actually listened to us as accessibility advocates, that one of the things we just wanted to be able to see improved in the final version of the game. So it's not like a huge amount, and I probably wouldn't say it's the best as far as like what we did receive in the final version of the game, because I get it, like a lot of the UI and the engine was kind of already locked in years ago, but I was happy to see that there was improvements being made even a few months before release, which was really, really cool to see. So there are some negative aspects that I probably I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and this kind of goes back to our original video back in July, where there is a lot of complex controls here that would be difficult for a lot of disabled players, especially when you're in a like fast combat scenario where you have to think on your feet whether or not you have to hack something, distract someone, melee someone, or shoot someone, or run away, or drive away, or fly away. Like, there are a lot of options available to you to tackle each scenario. And that can be a lot, especially when you have to think fast in any scenario. That's why I generally probably gravitate towards the stealth option whenever there's that in games, because it gives me the option to kind of like take things at a time and be a little bit slower in trying to be able to like basically kind of go through each scenario one step at a time. And even in this game, you do have that option, but there are definitely some times where even when you fail, and it's like, oh man, okay, now that person saw me, and then it's just a cascading effect from there that I pretty much almost hope that I actually become incapacitated, so essentially I can just start over that again, that scenario. So it's gonna be a lot, and we mentioned in the video that there is a lot of options here that can be able to help, but it doesn't really kind of fix the core aspect of the game, or the core aspect of the franchise, that there's just a lot to do in this. So jumping off from that, also from a deaf and hard hearing perspective, there is a lot of visualization of sound in this that kind of pops up on screen pretty much at any given moment. There's either subtitles or captions of basically audio descriptions of what sounds are happening around you, plus any of the reticles of people noticing you, or just kind of around you, or just the subtitles of the NPCs if you have full captions on. So there's a lot of cognitive load for deaf and hard of hearing players that it's going to be a lot to be able to sort of take in. And that, again, that ties into just how complex this game is, that there is a lot going on. And also for motor disabilities, again, there's the complex control controls. Like, so this is going to affect a lot of disabilities. So again, I would say if you could try it first before you really purchase it to see if this game is going to be right for you, I definitely would recommend that. So my overall thoughts of the game, there is a lot here for accessibility. There's a lot of options in general that allows you to be able to customize your play style that works best for you. But there is enough here for a majority of disabled players to be able to play. And it's going to take time for us to be able to get to that point where like a large majority of the spectrum of disability is going to be covered. And that takes time. But what I do like to be able to see, and you may call me an Ubisoft fanboy, but when it comes to accessibility, I have to basically admit that yes, I am a fan of what they are doing. They for several years now, if you've been watching what they've been doing for accessibility, every single game that they've come out with, every flagship title has an improvement over the other when it comes to accessibility. And Watch Dogs is no different. Valhalla is no different. They have definitely pushed a lot forward. Yes, there are definitely some things that we would love to be able to see Ubisoft do, but that takes time and that takes more tools and more development. But what is really nice to be able to see is that there is a cohesive sort of nature across the company as a whole to try to be able to keep moving accessibility forward and not have like, okay, there's a patchwork of accessibility options here in this game and there's a different sort of accessibility options in this. There's definitely a cohesiveness to a lot of their games, and it's really nice to be able to see the care being taken into each of these franchises. So yes, is this an improvement over Watch Dogs 2? 100%. I had trouble playing Watch Dogs 2. It was really difficult, and I definitely can say that yes, Watch Dogs Legion is one that I am really excited to be able to dive even deeper in and play more of it, especially when there's going to be new DLC coming out. This is one of my highly anticipated games of the year, and this game did not disappoint, even on the accessibility side. If you have any questions or comments or any feedback you want to be able to provide, please leave a comment down below or hit me up on Twitter at Steve Saylor and ask away, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. If you want to be able to see more of my videos, because I've got some really, really cool videos coming up very soon, trust me, it's gonna be good. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. And then if you want to be notified when those videos are out, and once you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell notification icon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, I remain obediently yours. Bye.